This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. We all want to be loved. It's universal. We want to feel love and also give love. And with that comes the feeling of acceptance. And many of us, when you dig deep, there's probably been many situations where you felt like you didn't fit in. You felt like you might not be accepted. Maybe there was some challenges in your life. Today, we're going to look at those challenges, and I'm not even just talking about maybe your childhood, although there's a lot of stuff there that holds us back now as we get older, but also the courage to move forward when you feel that you're not accepted in a situation. And it comes up a lot. We're going to dig into that with somebody who is an author, director, app developer, executive director, and so much more, spreading awareness in many different ways. Ethan Levy joins us once again on the program. How are you doing today?
Hi, thank you again so much for having me. I very much appreciate being here. As you shared, my name's Van, pronoun series they, and for those who speak Spanish, ella. I'm queer, I'm non-binary, I'm trans, I'm Egyptian, I'm Jewish, I'm Latine, I'm autistic, I'm a person with dynamic disabilities, along with many more historically and currently excluded and erased identities, as well as, like you shared, a licensed marriage and family therapist, a licensed professional clinical counselor, an educator, advocate, app developer, documentary developer, director, author, and so much more. And I'm just really excited to be here today, to be in community with you and to continue to connect and hopefully help folks be able to identify what feels most authentic and navigate this world as safely as possible.
Love that. We could use we could use an entire podcast just for your credentials, to be honest, and that's a wonderful thing. Now, before we even dig deep into this, as a counselor helping people in that capacity, did you seek that because you went through challenges and you wanted to help others through their challenges?
So that's actually a great question. The reason that I became a licensed therapist is mostly just because of the constant harm that I experienced in this world, but then also in the therapy world. I'm a survivor of childhood violence of many different forms, and then also a survivor of being forced into conversion therapy and conversion camps my entire childhood and adolescence. And as I got older, I continued to stay in therapy to continue my own internal growth. And I was consistently experiencing this same transphobia that I was experiencing at 8, at 12, at 6, at all these different ages. And nothing really was changing. And so instead of complaining about what wasn't working, I made it my life's mission to hopefully shift and change so that it can be safer for folks to go to therapy. A lot of people go into therapy expecting their therapist to know everything and truly trusting that this is a safe relationship, when in reality, we're human beings first and then we're therapists. And if we haven't done our own internal work, which nobody can do all of it, we have a higher probability of engaging in harm with the people that we're seeing as clients. And so I really wanted to shift this hierarchy and mentality that the therapist knows everything and can't do any wrong, versus if it doesn't feel right for you, then it probably isn't a good fit. We're not all a good fit for everybody, and that's okay.
100,000%. And you bring back a memory. 2012, had a therapist situation going on, and it was okay. It was all right. Fast forward to, I don't know, maybe 2021, engage the same person again. Just didn't seem right. Like and it was similar situation, but I felt that person, and I'm being specific here, but that person was focusing on logistics and not really feelings. And after a while, I was like, well, I can talk to anybody about the logistics of a situation. So it was time to make a change. So I guess it's pilot by your intuition and how you're feeling. If you are feeling like you're being supported and being heard at the same time. I think being heard is a big thing. We didn't realize it. Sounds so simple, but you could have a therapist or anybody you think is hearing you, but maybe they're not, or they're not hearing truly what you're saying. Would you say that you also part of your motivation to go into therapy and help others was also to help yourself, also to learn some things about yourself as you learned about the process and how the mind works and all of that. You say feel it was a little part of that too?
So I will answer that. I do want to backtrack just for a moment too,
Yeah.
that I also think when we're working with therapists too, it's also okay that somebody could have been right for a certain time, right? So if we think some people maybe needed help with more of those logistic pieces because they didn't have that in their life. And then when therapy is working, we're noticing actually I can cultivate those relationships or hone in on the ones that exist to be able to do what I'm doing in therapy on my own to not need that therapist.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that your old therapist was good for the time, but I think it's important for folks to know too that just because it was right one time or at a certain time in your life, it doesn't now negate that that work wasn't what was needed at the time.
I
And I
agree.
think that, yeah, it's just like anything. People can take us to a certain point to their capabilities, and then maybe it's no longer what we need anymore. And so I also like see that as you've incorporated and integrated the work that you did for so long that you've now essentially become your own therapist in that capacity that you're not needing it anymore. And you know, maybe I'm entirely wrong, but I share that as kind of a modeling to folks to also be able to pause and recognize the work that you have done and be proud of what you have accomplished because it can be so hard when our life still feels like it's not the way we want it to be.
Thank you for saying that. And the my therapy situation, the situation that I engaged the therapist for the first time and the second time, there was a connection. So it seemed reasonable. Let's use the same person again. But things change. We change. We're always evolving, looking at things differently. And just what you said, in terms of, I'm feeling what you said is giving yourself some grace, cutting yourself some slack. Many times we look at the last couple of months and it's like I'm not moving forward. I still feel stuck here. Something's just not right. But if you looked at it in a bigger chunk, like 6 months, go back a year, look at what you've done in a year. Look at how life has changed. Maybe look at how much you've grown. It's I know for me, it's mind-boggling. When I take back like a year, I'm like, whoa, there's a lot going on there, and a lot of discovery, a lot of growth. When I look at the last year, probably more than I've ever experienced in my life. To be honest with you, that's just me. But like, do you feel the same way when you look at a larger sum there? What you got going on is pretty profound.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I have a mentor who often like pushes me to pause to reflect because it's like, oh, I haven't
Mm,
done anything, or there isn't anything that can be done, or nothing is changing. But hey, let's pause and see the small amount that has, which can be that motivation to continue to keep moving forward when you're feeling almost like weighted down by all the can'ts and everything going on in our own head.
yes, and I love the
Um,
pause. The power of the pause is just amazing. Even in everything we do, we don't pause. Even in speaking, a lot of us feel that, if I pause, I'm going to come off looking like I'm unsure. I'm going to come off looking unfocused. No, actually, you do the other person a favor, giving him a second to react and think about what you said. I think I shared with you that I'm part of a men's group, and this in lies with what you just said. The other night, we're together, we're all talking about mass down our situations and everything. And one of the men, very strong willed and having some challenges, and he's not seeing things move forward. And one of us stopped and said, have you ever taken some time by yourself just to think? Quiet time. And he thought for a moment and he said, no, I don't do that. And all of us like, you need to do that. You need to take a moment, even if it's I've driven to the beach, and I'm blessed that beaches are around here. An hour later I drive away, I'm like, oh, I got a little clarity there because I took that time. We don't do that. The power of the pause, right?
yeah, it's like so interconnected with like capitalism and this overcoupling of this idea that in order for me to be productive, I need to be doing and not pausing without understanding that in that pause, in that rest, is that time for our brain to actually process and integrate and understand not just surviving through it, but also understanding it from looking at it at multiple different angles. And so creating space to process is actually super healthy, and having the ability to, or being, if you can make that time to pause, to have time to reflect, is being productive, even though a lot of us might feel like, oh, I'm just being lazy or wasteful of time.
Mm, that one I discovered um, last fall. And I would have friends that I text with them, talk with them on the weekend. And they would say, it could be like a Saturday or Sunday, and it could be maybe, I don't know, it's 11 o'clock now. Yeah, I'm still in bed. And I would write back, what? You're still in bed? You just blew half the day. What is, I get out and do something, blah, blah, blah. And then it took me a while to figure it out. And then I started doing it. I would pick one day from out of the weekend and just stay in bed. I would DoorDash breakfast, have it show up, a little cup of coffee, feeling like a king in bed. And then I had that realization to what you said. Doing nothing is doing something. You're recharging your mind, you're recharging your body, you're thinking, you're just moving forward when you think you're not. So, thank you for bringing that up. I totally forgot about that.
And that really is what self-care is. Self-care isn't going to the spa, doing makeup, going and drinking. It's really creating that space for you to be refreshed. I'm a better person when I have that time to pause and reflect, because otherwise inside my brain is chaotic. I'm going from one thing to the other, don't want to forget something, don't, like, all the things.
Yep.
By the time I'm with you, I'm just static, hoping that like I can be present, but I'm really not. Versus, if you come out of being in bed, having coffee in bed, not having all the additional demands of the world, when you show up for that relationship, you have a higher probability of being present.
You said a great word, refreshed. That says it all right there. It really does. I mean, it's like, who wouldn't want to feel that way? But you have to be intentional in doing that. Let's look at challenges that present where you feel that you don't fit in, you feel like you're not included. That can happen in any time. Certainly, in your childhood, happens a little more often. At least it's more on your radar. But when those things present, how does one find the courage to power through, the strength to stand up and feel comfortable about who they are? How do you find that power?
So I think there's a lot of layers to this question, right? So when we're younger, I think we're more aware of how different we are because we haven't developed the different coping skills, whether it's disassociation or whatever it might be, to feel that hurt, that pain, that isolation, because we've then equated into our brain, well, this is what normal is. So if I don't emulate normality, then there's something wrong with me. And so now we're just, robotically saying the things, moving the same ways, wearing the clothes, whatever it might be, to fit in so that we're not isolated.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, it's either you show up as you are or you don't, or you're dead, right? There really isn't so much of that third option. And so I think for me and for a lot of folks I know, the way that I have it for myself is that I'm going to be miserable either way. If I show up as myself or if I show up how everybody needs me to be. Because if I'm showing up how everybody needs me to be, I'm going to be like robotic, and I'm going to be communicating to myself that you're not deserving to be who you are. When I show up as my authentic self, I know I'm going to experience isolation, looks, whatever it might be. And I get to know that I am showing up for who I am. And that's what aligns with what I want for my life. So that courage for me basically just comes from, if I'm going to be uncomfortable, might as well be uncomfortable where I am who I am. And then from there, being able to find folks who can accept you for who you are and how you show up. And it's not as simple as, let me just go to a group with other trans people, or let me go to a group with a bunch of other folks who are autistic, right? We're more than just those one identities. It might be having to find folks who have multiple shared identities, or actually the person who I feel like I can be myself the most doesn't really have very many overlapping identities with me. They're just a genuinely kind person who's empathetic, who wants me to feel comfortable, who, when I do something or say something that might be weird, it isn't taken in the way that it lands for them, the way society has taught them to take it. They approach it as, ask me a question about it. If like, hey, did you mean for this to mean X, Y, and Z versus, oh no, absolutely not. I didn't realize when I said it this way, how could I have said it to you so that it would have landed in a way that wouldn't have been so hurtful, right? And so being able to find those green flags in relationships with one person, multiple people, or even in spaces. A lot of folks don't even have a room to show up as themselves without the risk of somebody coming in. And so at the end of the day, it comes down to really, for me, evaluating what way do I want to be miserable in the world? In the way that people are looking at me funny or saying things and mean things about me, or in the way that I don't get to be myself at all and feel like a hollow, empty shell. And that's what I find for a lot of our folks, of where they get the courage to continue to just keep showing up.
Do you ever get to the point where you just don't care? I don't care what you think. And you just block it out and you're in your lane, and it's just, I don't really care what people think. That's it. Have you ever gotten to that point? Is it possible to feel that way?
So it is and it isn't. So for me, I feel that way. And then there's reminders that directly impact my livelihood, right? Like if I go out in a certain way, or if when I'm pulled over by law enforcement, or if I'm in an interview or whatever it might be, I might say something as my authentic self of being direct, of like, hey, that's hurtful when you say this, or, please don't do this. And then all of a sudden it becomes this, I'm being aggressive, I'm being hostile. We don't want you on our show. We don't want you at our school. We don't want you to work here. We don't want to do business with you. We don't want to buy your book, all of that. And so I don't care what people think, but I also need to eat, to pay my bills, pay for my all the things of sustainability for my body. So I try to limit my interactions with folks where I can't be myself to just be work. And then anything else, I'd rather just be alone to be my authentic self, or with the people who I can be that. Otherwise, there's the missed out opportunities, not going out to different group things, not going out with people who I don't know. And this isn't 100% across the board, but there's that learning phase of how much can I show up without having to deal with the potential repercussions. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And do you recall like a moment where you felt like you rose above to that, closer to that point of, I don't care what you think. This is who I am. And that's it. Do you remember, where that moment came for you?
Yes, for me, it was the person who's also my mentor now. It became very clear that no matter, as long as you're not being harmful to others, showing up as you is the only right thing. And having that person to be able to protect me in the sense of saying something if somebody starts to say something to me, or intervene or address it, so that I can literally just exist with this like shield of a human to protect me.
What about childhood trauma? Coming up a lot, people are starting to realize that the things that we went through as kids, and they could be just basic stuff, happens to a lot of kids. You get bullied on the playground, or one day you're 7 years old and your best friend says, I don't want to be friends anymore, and walks away. And that's the end of that relationship. Those things can really be impactful later in life because it's in your subconscious. Have you thought about those kind of things? Does that come up when you're working with others?
Absolutely. And so my mentality is that we come into this earth literally just learning how to survive. That's the brain's job. How do I survive? How do I not die? And absorbing all the information. And the people who are supposed to be the safest people are the people who whether it's brought us into this world by birthing us, or raising us, or being guardian, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. So we're interpreting what love is from these people. So if we're in dynamics where they are abusive, or where we are invalidated, then now when you're going to school and you're interacting with other kids, what they say, the same bullying that might happen to one person happens to four other people, but it might not impact one or multiple of them, because they might have come from a home who told them, people might say mean things, but you're worthy. Yep. It's not that you just say that once, but really treated the person like they're deserving to be treated like a human. And so I always think that it has to do with literally our own upbringing, and then everything else is just a trickle effect in terms of how it impacts us. If a stranger tells me on the street that I'm ugly, it's not going to hurt me. If my friend tells me I'm ugly, that's going to hurt me. Versus if a stranger on the street tells me I'm not deserving to be on this world, because that message was so integrated in my life, it's going to impact me a lot more. Now I'm going to question, do I? Obviously, with a lot of work, I'm not exactly at that same impact by it. But to me, it is everything that we experience and everything that we learn is a roadmap to how we're going to interpret it, unless we create new synapses in our brain by having different experiences that shift what we've experienced.
100%. And in my understanding, even recently, that your subconscious, and back to the beginning here, it just wants us to be safe. We're just looking for safety, just to feel comfortable. That's why we don't like change. It's the S word. You just want to feel safe. But the subconscious, in my understanding, and I love your feedback on this, it's looking for evidence 24/7. So let's say the first sign of evidence was some kid on the playground bullied you. Then now your parents said something to you that, maybe they said, yeah, you could do better. Come on. Really? More evidence of I'm not good enough. Then there's, the person on the street corner says something, and now it's all adding up in your mind, and the evidence points to either you're not good enough or you don't fit in. Do you feel it's kind of a cumulative effect along the way there?
Absolutely. And I think it's even earlier. So I'm crying and nobody's coming to me, right?
Sure.
What is that telling my brain?
Absolutely.
That your despair isn't worthy of that. Now you go to the bullying, and then you go to the parenting, all of that. And so it is all cumulative until we can help our brains reprocess those traumas.
Yeah. And is that done with therapy, somebody working with you?
Absolutely. A lot of my team, we've gotten trained in what's called brain spotting, which helps the two parts of the brain communicate to help reprocess trauma, as well as a lot of different modalities that that the staff are trained in, because we want to align with what works best for the client. The reason I love brain spotting is that as a client, you never have to say a word. So I don't have to share with you my most vulnerable experiences in order to be able to reprocess that trauma. And that to me is really helpful.
I've heard that term brain spotting, but did not know that those details don't need to be revealed. I've done hypnotherapy, very impactful. It can get a little emotional, and if you're not prepared for that or you just don't want to deal with it, I understand it. So thank you for bringing up brain spotting. I had no idea that you don't have to go there, but you can still get the benefits of healing. You do a lot. You got a lot going on. What's your website?
VanEthanLevy.com. So V like Victor, ANETHANLEVY.com.
Thank you for today's insight and sharing your courage and your story. I appreciate that. I respect it too, that you can mask down and just, this is who I am, this is my journey, and this is where I'm at, and I'm here to help people. And you've got many different ways in doing that with an app, documentary, which I'm hoping next time we get together we can talk about. Thanks for being here today.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.